Good morning, everybody. Happy June 1st. Holy cow, where has the time gone? June 1st already, and it is going to be an exciting day here at East Coast Sports Investors. Your breakfast bankroll today. Uh, Myself and Scott Webb will break down last night's action, and we will go over today's action and hopefully put some money in your pocket. That is our goal here every day to educate, not entertain. And without further ado, from the Palm Tree State himself, Mr. Scott E. Webb. Scotty, how are you, my brother?
Morning, Jeff. I am doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking over the overnights. Took a look at yesterday as we got down, scrolled on the bottom. Favorites went 9-5. The under-overs are dead 7-7. So nice little tickets cashed. The Cubs with plus 127, your Rays at plus 121, and Seattle at plus 122 were just some of the dogs that cashed. Looking at, excuse me, some of the records of these teams here as we hit June 1st. So we've got the litmus test. Now we start to say, okay, is it smoke and mirrors? You know, I've talked day in, day out about those Giants, and they just keep on rolling. The Sox with a hiccup yesterday. We talked about Erod. Now they traveled to Houston. Erod didn't have it, and the Astros exposed the Sox, not just the starting pitching, but a few of the bullpen guys as well. But some of the records I'm looking at, I'm going to throw you some soft lobs here and tell me your thoughts where we are at June 1st. The one that kind of is grabbing me right now is the Cubs are now 30-23. I remember them struggling early. A lot of people thought that this was going to be a lost season. Thoughts on the Cubs right now?
I think the Cubs are all going to be about the division that they play in because the Brewers have two pitchers that can pitch and they can't hit very well. The Cardinals tend to be up and down and kind of mixed. They can play offense, but they don't have the best of pitching. And the Cubs fit right into that same role. I mean, they've got pitchers that are going to throw out their soft tosses. They have no hard throwers except Alzolay, and they all work on the corner. So if it depends on which team of those three really decide they want to hit. And in my mind right now, you're looking at the Cubs who are putting on the hitting performance. They're doing really well hitting. So what tends to happen is that the team when they're all kind of bunched up like that, the team that hits is going to be the team that wins. And in my mind, the Cubs can hit just as well as any of the rest of them as long as they're on. I don't know that they have the starting pitching to last to the end, because you can't sit there and tell me that Hendricks and Davies and those guys and Williams and those guys are going to be the guys that get it done for them. But at the same time, they are 7 games over 500 right now. But they're right there with the Cubs or the Cardinals, and they're right there with the Brewers. Looking at the projected numbers say the Brewers are going to win the division, but by 1 game over the Cubs and by 2 games over the Cardinals. And so that'll be a bunch at the end. And, when you start to think about it, I mean, if you look at it that way, from first to third is 2 games.
And the preseason and stuff, I was one of the ones that didn't have a lot of faith in the Cubs. A little leery of that starting pitching. Kimbrel has been lights out. Also, the talks of potentially moving Brian at the All-Star break and becoming sellers because he's in his last year, and then moving on to free agency. So that team has caught our eye here. Now I'm going to go the flip side, and I am a firm believer a lot of teams living off of last year's laurels. And they're kind of just going through the motions. And this team just fits the bill right now. The Minnesota Twins, 22-31. What the hell's going on in Minnesota?
I think there's a lot of things going on in Minnesota. I mean, their run scored is still high. I mean, they're still a good offense. but it's been inconsistent offense, and they have Barrios at the top, but I think they were trying to think Kenta Maeda was going to be the guy that drove the bus there, and I think he got off the bus. So I mean, I don't think that they've got the pitching. And when you think about that division, I mean, everybody knows that you play the Royals and the Tigers, but at the same time you got to play the White Sox and the Indians, and both of those teams have pitching, and they're deep in pitching. So if you think the Twins match up in pitching with either the White Sox or the Indians, it's just not there. So the Twins have to really be competitive there. They have to really be way better in offense. And sure, they might be better in offense than the Indians, but they're nowhere near what the White Sox are. So I just look at it from a perspective of the Twins needed to be a 5-run per game scoring team, and they're not. And they need to give up, 4.25 runs a game or 4.5 runs a game, somewhere in that neighborhood. And they're in an almost 5 runs a game given up category. So, for example, the Chicago White Sox are in the 3.46 runs allowed and almost 5 runs a game. That's the type of team that is going to win in the end. And, like the Indians, they're scoring 3.94, but only give up 408. So they're going to be a 500 team. So there's only one team in that division that's going to go crazy. That's the White Sox. The Indians are going to be a 500 team. And I think the Twins can be a 500 team at the end, or pretty close. But at the same time, that's predicated on them not selling.
American League West. Now, preseason, everyone talked about the Astros. Everyone's talked about Oakland. We had Oakland winning this division, 31-25 right now. The Astros are 29-24. And then the team I want to talk about that has quietly won 5 in a row, and probably a year or two away, but they got some great young players, pitchers, position players. They bring up Kelenic. Seattle, 28-27. Smoke and mirrors, buying or selling?
I'm not buying Seattle for this season. I don't mind them as a future team. When I think about that team, I think about the pitching, and their best pitcher is Kikuchi, and Kikuchi is just not necessarily. He's not really an ace, if you want to call it that. So when you have to go out there and try to match up, I don't think that really works for him. However, having said that, I do like the young talent that's coming along. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see with what's happening with Seattle. I'm just kind of concerned that some of the guys that they had last season, for example, what's the center fielder's name out there? The Kyle Lewis. Kyle Lewis was the Rookie of the Year last season. Well, so far this season, Kyle Lewis is batting .246. His on-base average is .323. His weighted runs created plus is 112. So he's 12% better than an average player. That's not superstar level, that where they're picking up this year is the Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger has 14 home runs, and he's hitting lights out. 261 batting average, but a 138 weighted runs created plus. So he's 38% better than average. His offensive WAR is 10, so he's in double digits already. So the other guy is Kyle Seager. Those two guys are the guys that are carrying the load for them, not the young players. And that's typically what you'll see when the young players come up, like Ozuna's and those guys of the world. If you have a star, then those guys can come up and play. As far as Jared Kaselnik, he is currently right now batting 118. He is a 33 on the weighted runs created plus. So that means he's 67% worse than an average hitter. So he is struggling, needless to say, in his first 18 games or so. He's got 76 at-bats. So he just needs to obviously stay in there and keep working at it and see what happens for him. And that's going to happen too for some of these guys. And they were really high on a guy named Evan White who plays first base. And Evan White is also in that I'm a struggling bust kind of guy. So I'm not sold on Seattle for this season for sure. And without some how do I say it? Without some dynamic starting pitching, I'm probably not going to be sold on them next year either.
Yeah, interesting overall. Like I said, we used that June 1st as the litmus test. We're here already, and some teams that are quietly under the radar. And you talk about a team doing it with Band-Aids here, and the ace comes out yesterday and spins another gem, and that's obviously DeGrom. And quietly, the Mets have got to 26-20 in a division that most thought, Atlanta would run away and hide, and that has been a Jekyll and Hyde team for us. They're at 25-26, been so inconsistent there. The Nats at 21-29. So divisions are starting to mold. They're starting to come into what we thought, and some of them that we didn't. The Rays, your Rays, as we talked yesterday, I think now have won 16 out of 17 or something crazy like that. Beat them while they're down, kick them while they're down. The Yankees just aren't hitting, and it's showing right now. The Sox are trying to hold on, and it will be interesting to see for sure. As we get into today's game, Scotty, I got 4 games checked off. Anyone here listening, watching, have any questions, feel free to, just put them up here. We can break down any games that you would like. That's what we are here for, to answer any questions, maybe some leans that you guys might have. There is no day baseball game today, so this will give us an opportunity here to follow the market all day and to see exactly where the public's going, maybe with some reverse line movement, some steam, et cetera, et cetera. First game, Scotty, that we have checked off here, 7:10 first pitch. Rotation number 901, 902, a great pitching matchup. You talked about Cincinnati yesterday, home cooking. They put up, I think it was 11 runs with an easy win. Today, Nola versus Gray. And we had Nola opening up at 108, minus 108 at Pinnacle and minus 110 at Chris. We've seen a little flip and a little reverse line movement towards the home team with Sonny Gray. Thoughts, Gray versus Nola?
I originally made a note to look at that game as more of an under kind of game because and then I started looking at it, and neither one of these guys. Well, I guess the right way to say it is neither team is a good hitting team. Now I say that, and then all of a sudden yesterday the Reds put up 11 runs, and that's just the way baseball goes. Looking at the last 30 days numbers for the starting pitchers, Nola's Sierra numbers are 3.16 and Gray's a 3.94. Looking at their last 7 starts when it comes to game score, it's 51 and 52. Those are average at best kind of numbers. Now the Sierra numbers are good, but it just kind of goes to show sort of what you have to do these days to score and be good at offense. Because if you're just an above average pitcher, sometimes you go out there and you look like you're the best thing in the world. And it's the hard hit rates. It's the batting average against like Nola's batting average against in the last month. It's 257, and that's above average. So I don't know many aces that are like that. You don't go out and see Garrett Cole that way. You don't go out and see DeGrom that way. Of course, those are the most upper tier guys. But at the same time, Nola was expected to be a top 10 pitcher this year. And if you got a 56 as a game score for the season, that puts you in a good class, but it's not the class. And that's kind of where I look at it. And I don't have a feel for this game. I'm trying to figure out, which way to go. I looked at it probably as maybe an under type scenario, weighted The numbers that kind of come out to me in this particular game is win probability added. Nola is a negative number and Gray is a positive number, so it steers me off of Gray or off of Nola in that game. Even though the Phillies have to be one of the most frustrating teams, because if you look at their lineup, they got guys that can hit, and then you get them out there and they don't hit. And then they got guys that can pitch, and then you got to wait till Wheeler pitches. And then when Wheeler pitches, they're minus 200 and something. So, they're just a frustrating team.
Rotation number 905, 906, 8:05 p.m. first pitch. San Diego at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. Weathers versus Hendricks. We had a opening line at Pinnacle of Padres minus 109, and at Chris, Padres minus 119. Again, we've seen a flip, reverse line movement, and heavy money coming in on the Cubs. I currently can get them at the win at minus 113, at Circa minus 109. Thoughts on Weathers versus Hendricks?
Well, there's two things here for me, and this is one of the things I always try to tell people is, even though I really data mine and look at all the numbers, I used to play baseball, so I know a little bit about the game, and the reality is that guys like Hendricks that are soft tossers and masters of the craft never do well on sabermetrics. They are guys that don't do well because primarily they can get hit. Sabermetrics is all about throwing the ball past players, throwing the ball moves. You can't hit it very hard. And with Hendricks, he gets hit a lot. So these kind of guys throw me off a little bit just in looking at numbers. So I have to try to always guard against that. But having said that, Weathers, I think everybody remembers Weathers from the time when you first saw him pitch in that San Diego, Los Angeles Dodgers series, and he was out there and he threw 4 or 5 innings and shut out the Dodgers and stuff like that. Well, his Sierra number is over the last month is 5.24. It's one of the worst numbers on the board today. Only Smith in Arizona is worse. His strikeout rate is 13%, so he don't strike anybody out either. So there's going to be lots of balls in play here, and I don't understand. I get it about whether the line is and that kind of thing, and a lot of people like the Padres. I liken the Padres to the New York Yankees in a lot of ways, and the biggest thing I look at is they don't have the same number of batting average hitters throughout the lineup, just like the Yankees. Now, the Yankees have 5 guys that hit below 200, but San Diego's got 3 or 4 or 5 in their lineup, depending on who plays too. And they're predicated off that key hit at that key time or that key home run, and they've been getting it. The Yankees haven't. So I don't. In my mind, San Diego is certainly a step behind the Dodgers, even though the records are about the same, even though the predicted models look like they're going to be about the same. Mm-hmm. And that's just because they're not getting the hit. Like Tommy Pham, for example, what's he batting today? Those guys are not hitting the way that you might think that they would or should. And when you get a lot better look out of, out of the Chicago Cubs, for example. I'm looking at the batting for the Padres right now, and obviously Tatis is really good, and Grisham is good, and Cronenworth. After you got those guys, you got Machado hitting 230, Pham hitting 220, their catcher Nola hitting 217, Saratini hitting 223. So the reality becomes is that that's kind of like the same lineup that the Yankees throw out there. And they only have one guy that's got a big home run total. Tatis has 16. The next closest guy has 6. So what's really happening with how the Padres win the games? I think this is sort of a misnomer here, and I think the Cubs are in a pretty good spot in this game.
All right. Lastly, we'll go right into your home ballpark again. The Tampa Bay Rays, 35-20. First pitch at 7:05 in the Bronx. Rotation number 915, 916. They wheel out Glasnow, and Yankees will wheel out Herman. Chris had them opening up minus 130 and Pinnacle at 128. We've seen, again, a 50-50 split, yet the line dropping down towards the Yankees' favor. You can shop around right now and get Tampa anywhere from minus 121 all the way down to 114. It's circa. Again, Rays have won 16 out of 17. Yankees at home, a dog. I think on paper you would obviously give a big edge to Glasnow, but your thoughts here?
Well, it's kind of interesting because Glasnow is a 3.2 Sierra number and German's a 3.66. So they do it two different ways, but these guys are almost both green across the board all the way through. Green on my board means they're a top third in the league pitcher. And the differences and where they're red, both of them are home runs per 9 innings. They give up the home runs. However, my thoughts here is that the Yankees are determined to try to turn things around. That doesn't matter to me. I mean, all teams get determined when they lose and they try to do something different. Teams that when they're winning, they play loose and they play good. The Yankees don't do well against strikeout pitchers, and Glasnow is that. I mean, his strikeout rate's 32.8. So 1/3 of the guys that he faces today are going to strike out, and likely more than that because it's the Yankees. So the problem with him is that he does have a high walk rate. So you want to be careful because against the Yankees, a walk and a home run, it's a two-run deficit you got to fight out of. So I kind of like this game more in an under situation than I do as a game where I think there's going to be a lot of runs. Remember, you said it yesterday, and it's kind of getting to be more public knowledge now. The Yankees don't score. I mean, they just don't. And they didn't do it yesterday, and now they're going to face a good pitcher. And German's a tough pitcher. He's not a good pitcher. He's just a tough pitcher. So the Rays are going to have to scratch out runs. So say the Rays win this game 4-2. Well, that stays under, and that's probably a likable outcome in this game. And can you really say that the Yankees are going to go out and score 5, 6, 7 runs against Glasnow, or I guess against anybody for that matter? So I like that game as an under.
All right, now everyone, going to the lightning round. All right, Scotty, June 1st, as we get ready to start the second quarter of the MLB, the stage is yours. All the listeners out there are eagerly awaiting the Scott Webb report and what you're looking at today.
Well, there's one game for sure that caught my eye, and maybe you can add some insight to this line. It's the New York Mets at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I'm trying to look at the rotation number because I forget.
907, 908, and Stroman is in for Peterson.
Yes. So when you look at that number, I think it's like 115 or something like that for the Mets.
That's correct.
So I sit there and look at it, and to me, I have my projected numbers and different things show like that the Mets are going to be a team that wins 90 games or 91 games this season. And then you look at the Diamondbacks, and they're going to be an under 500 team. They're not going to win 70. They're going to win 68 games. So that automatically makes the Mets a selection in terms that they're a much better team. And I get it. There's some injuries and things like that. But then you go and you look at the pitching performance, and you have Caleb Smith, who's pitching for Arizona. And the truth is he hasn't pitched started in like his last 3 appearances have been more of he had an opener come in for him, and then he's been the bulk guy, if you want to call him that. But his game score is a 36. It's really bad. 5.79 is a Sierra number. His strikeout rate's only 8%. So he doesn't strike out anybody. His batting average against is 327, and his guys on base is 1.83. So almost two guys are getting on base per inning and a 2.25 home run rate per 9 innings. So he's very hittable, let's put it that way. And then you throw in Marcus Stroman, who's not been the greatest pitcher in the world over his last 30 days, but he's a good pitcher nonetheless. 415 Sierra number, which is average. His deal is he doesn't walk anybody, and he's got a big ground ball rate. So I like the idea that Arizona, who can be a home run hitting team at times, are in a spot where they're going to be hitting the ball on the ground as opposed to hitting the ball out. New York Mets are ranked number 2 in baseball in terms of offense over the last week or so, and then the Arizona Diamondbacks are like the middle of the pack. So I like the idea here that we're getting pretty good value, and I made a wager on the New York Mets today. Trying to flip my switch back. There we go. And I made the Mets the number. Do you see anything in that line that why would the Mets not be favored by more?
And I'm kind of curious myself with the Pinnacle or Chris opening up at 118, 119. We did get the alert about 10 minutes before we started the show. Stroman in for Peterson, and Arizona's lost like 14 out of the last 15, if I'm correct. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm seeing this looks like it might be a pretty big public game. I'm getting right now about an 89% of the bets and 75% of the money, yet it's starting to trickle down towards Arizona, which is kind of curious. I'd be interested to know the Mets record after a DeGrom start, so you face DeGrom that's throwing, 98, 99, 100 at you for 7 innings. And then anyone that follows him, I think would be a tad shorter. But I agree with you. Mets are getting healthier. Mets seem to be all of a sudden putting it together. Again, 6 games over 500, which I think is their high watermark for the year. And I do like this spot for them as well. I think the key with Stroman is getting him out early, getting him a couple runs, let him settle down. And I think they are in a good spot here.
No, I played that one just because it looks to me like numbers wise, it just is out of balance, out of kilter. And maybe they're trying to, I don't know. I looked at the lineup first for the Mets that they played yesterday. And I made sure that, the guys were in there that are supposed to be in there. So for example, Pete Alonso played yesterday. Smith played yesterday. Lindor was in there. McCann was in there. So the only guys that they didn't, the only guys that are kind of in there were McKinney, Peraza, and Williams, right fielder, second base, center fielder, that were kind of out of sequence of who they would normally have out there. So they're getting healthier too. So I kind of like that matchup, and especially with the way that Arizona's been playing, and they've got an anemic offense. Well, I shouldn't say anemic. It's been halfway decent. Their pitching's been just awfully terrible. So I like that game. And one of the games that I thought were kind of worth looking at. I didn't wager on it. I think it's one to kind of keep an eye on. Is the Texas Rangers against the Colorado Rockies, and I don't think people realize how good Dunning is. Dane Dunning is a good pitcher, even though his numbers over the whole season aren't necessarily great. He's had great spot starts, so his numbers show 3.72 as a Sierra number. But he's been a guy that's a 61% ground ball rate guy, and he's facing an offense in Colorado today. The Colorado offense just is number 30 out of 30 teams, and they sit at 30 weighted runs created plus. That means they are 70% worse than an average offense, and that's just, I don't know what to say. Most of the time, you're going to have poor offenses, but they won't be that bad. They're like their batting average for the last week is 153, for example. mean, 15% of the time they get a hit. That's not very good. And it's just I think worthy of a chance to if you want to have a lean or so with Texas, because I think they're a small dog there, or a plus 100, something like that when I saw it. And then the only other thing I was trying to think about is I want to play the Rays today, but I don't know how I'm going to play it. I don't know if I'm going to play on the Rays or if I'm going to play the under. And I'm probably just going to take the over-under out of it, and I'm more than likely going to just jump on Glass now.
Going back to your Texas game, because that was one of the games that we did have checked off. Pinnacle opened up Colorado at minus 125, and Chris opened up Colorado also at minus 125. We've seen a big reverse line movement coming in on Dunning and Texas. Currently, right now, we're seeing them both at minus 105, 105, and we're showing 65% of the bets are coming in on Colorado, yet 62% of the money is coming in on Texas. So we do lean Texas. They are a sharper, heavier play overnight and currently right now on Texas. So anyone listening, watching, are your two ECSI freebies for today. One moment, please. So today, rotation number 907, 940 first pitch, your New York Mets. You can list Stroman if you'd like. We currently have them at minus, we'll go with circa, minus 116 at the circa. That's the Mets, minus 116 at the circa. And at 840 first pitch, rotation number 927, Texas. You can list Dunning right now at Colorado, and we'll give you the circa number right now, minus 105, both teams there. Closing thoughts, Scotty.
Well, as we get into June, golf has what do they call it? Saturday is moving day.
Yes.
June has the All-Star break preview coming up. This will be the last month that teams position themselves to get to a point where they're either in the race or they're not, because then you have the July 4th All-Star break type time frame. Coming out of that, they'll be making their moves and trades to bolster themselves for a playoff run. So this will be the last true month of real baseball that you'll see from every team who is trying to position themselves. So I think that you can really see teams either fall back to the pack or separate themselves these next 30 days.
100% agree. June 1st, we always have highlighted Memorial Day weekend, June 1st. This is where the action does pick up. It's like now a 5-week sprint to get to that all-star break, where then you will find out if these teams are buyers or sellers. Anyone watching, listening, run over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you got an extra 5 seconds, feel free to write us a quick review. And remember, we are, for the next few days, potentially will be on the PM edition of the Breakfast Bankroll. I thank everyone here for watching and listening. Don't be afraid to like, share, retweet. Every little bit helps. So from myself and Scott, we wish you the best of luck. Always wager and invest responsibly.